NJ.com and the Heldridge Hotel. Welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights. With your host, Steve Politi, and Rutgers insider Brian Fonseca. Let's start shopping.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Rant, our Maryland Pick Pod edition. Talk about the game. We'll have a special guest picker, Chris Carlin. A little pandemonium in podcast away. Think he's sick of that? We should ask him. It's a good question. Think he's sick of that?
He must. I think not to give an advanced scouting report here on what we're going to ask. I'm wondering what his second favorite call is, because that's got to be the favorite, no matter how annoying it is. But he's got to have another one in the.
Of course. Do you think he goes and orders a sandwich and someone says it's pandemonium at Panera? You think he gets it could be a thing, or it'd be it's a funny commercial. He could be he could do a sponsorship where he goes someplace and they yell at him,
Yet another NIL opportunity that's dropped, but not too late. I will say though, we are dropping gold here that we could use when we talk to Carlin. Let's not get ahead of our skis.
That's true. All right. We'll save that for Carlin. We'll have him on the show later. We'll obviously preview the Maryland game, about as big a game as Rutgers has had this season. Certainly got to win it. I thought we'd start here really quick, and because people, it comes up on Twitter, the election yesterday, Mikey Sherrill will be the new governor of the state. And it's important to acknowledge this stuff because it just how impactful governors can be in Rutgers athletics. And if you've paid attention, you know this already. But if you haven't, if you don't think it's important, I can take you through the last three, right? I mean, Governor Murphy, extremely instrumental in pulling the Schiano hire from the trash bin of history. That's something he was involved in, sat courtside at all these games. Governor Christie, essentially backstabbed Pernetti, got him out and gave Rutgers Pat Hobbs. That was him. That's behind the scenes. That's what happened. Governor Corzine, I want to go even one further back than that. He was the one who backed the $100 million stadium expansion that made it possible for Greg Schiano to stay. That was a huge deal back then. I have forgotten all about it. We're going back 20 years now, I guess. Not quite 20, but we're going back a while. So, these are things that you got to remember. These are things that are impactful with governors. I do not know what kind of sports governor Mikey Sherrill's going to be, Brian, but if we've seen one thing across college sports landscapes is that the politicians these day and age especially tend to get involved when the higher profile the program is.
I am sure the Rutgers brass is hoping she's less involved than the Louisiana governor is in LSU's business, as he's been in the past couple of weeks. I think most people would hope that she is closer to Phil Murphy than she is to Chris Christie, obviously. And I think the key thing here is just being open to continue to supporting the school. They gave them tax credits for facilities projects in the past, and they've done work to help the athletic department. And as we have detailed very often, that this athletic department needs all the money it can get.
Right. Being
the state university, these are funds that are invaluable. They're not invaluable. There's literally value to them, but you understand my point here. So I think it's indisputable that she will be involved. You laid a pretty good case there. I guess the question is how involved will she be and how positive will the involvement be? And I have to think that considering this is the first time they've had the same party have two straight governors since 1961, that was the stat or something like that?
Something like that, yep.
So maybe she'll be closer to Phil Murphy just because she's continuing the Democratic lineage. We'll see, but certainly an under-the-radar aspect in the election. I didn't really hear them talk much about Rutgers, which is probably a good thing for Rutgers, but it's important nonetheless.
No, absolutely. I didn't, and this would have been started the show even if Ciccarelli won, because I don't know what he would have done either. It's just sort of an interesting wrinkle in it. And you mentioned it, yeah. Murphy was a no matter what your politics are, a pretty pro Rutgers president, a pro Rutgers athletics president, certainly.
Governor.
Yeah. What I say?
You said athletics president.
But you meant governor. Governor. Yeah, I'm sorry. Governor. Yes. President, governor. Certainly somebody who, not only was at the games, but was involved in a lot of the stuff behind the scenes and, the Schiano stuff. I don't know what direction that would have gone, but if you're making the short list of people whose impact when Schiano pulled out of the negotiations, got dragged back in within a week, was being introduced, and Murphy was certainly very much involved in that. It's interesting too, because, the hands-off approach, it might be what Rutgers needs now. I don't know. Like, it could go the other way too. You mentioned it. You don't want a governor who is, meddling in the day-to-day decisions, and that's going to backfire with Hobbs, with that hire, with Christie deciding that Pernetti had to go and making that clear when everything happened with the Mike Rice situation. Yeah, it's not always a good thing, certainly. And I think you're seeing that, unless you want your governor standing up at a press conference in Louisiana saying they're going to let Donald Trump pick the next coach at LSU, it could go both ways. I certainly don't think she's going to be more involved than the last couple, but we'll find out. So
I think just a good principle to get reelected is to build goodwill and do what people want. And I think there are a lot of people in New Jersey that want a successful Rutgers athletic department. So I certainly think, much the way that Phil Murphy's involvement, I don't know how much of that was because he was a Shiano man or how much of it was like there are a lot of pissed off people in New Jersey, and I could score some significant political points here. The point being that I think that if there is enough appetite for a winning Rutgers athletic department and people show that, in their, if it's going to impact their vote, I think Mikey Sherrill will want to placate as many of those people as possible, right? Just plain old politics.
And Murphy was going to games even when there was no political points to be scored. He's sitting in the baseline seats. Last year when things went off the rails for the basketball team, he was still going at the end. It's just interesting. So we shall see if Mikey Sherrill gets those seats. I wonder if she was calling last night, does the governorship come with the baseline seats at the rack? That's where I want to go. Kind of funny. All right.
Well, you got two constituents here. You got Ryder from South Jersey. You got Rutgers in Central / North. That's, you get the whole state in one hit right here.
There you go. Yeah. Fascinating. We'll see if she's there. All right. Let's move on to the football game. Do you remember last week when we said Illinois was facing the same questions that Brett Bielema was taking over the defense, and it was like a parallel universe, Illinois. And well, we got that again, only it's to the complete extreme of what Rutgers would be facing if things truly were trending in the wrong direction. Two headlines I'm going to read to you from the Baltimore Sun and the Baltimore Banner. The first one: Maryland football fighting fan apathy, they want a signature win, in quotes. That sounds familiar. And the Baltimore Banner: if Terps want to win bigger, they must move on from Mike Locksley. So yeah, this is the climate that Maryland is coming to SHI Stadium. Head coach under fire, team underperforming, fan apathy. We want a signature win. All of these things. It's kind of fascinating given the fact these two programs came into the Big Ten at the same time and now are facing many of the same problems.
Facing a game that's a do or die for both of them if they want to make a bowl game, essentially, because of the way their schedule breaks out too. And I'm not quite sure how much Maryland fans care about making a bowl game either. If they're in the same boat as Rutgers fans of kind of shrugging their shoulders. I did think Mike Locksley had an interesting comment in his presser yesterday where he says he's a year ahead of Greg Schiano because he's in his 7th year and Greg's in his 6th. I think for the certain faction of the Rutgers fan base that is starting to see the seat get a little hot, their ears are ringing, thinking that maybe that Rutgers is going to be in a similar position next year as Maryland is this year with Mike Locksley. He's in a tough spot. If he's going to try to sell himself for another year, he's going to say that there are a lot of young players on this team. They have a 5-star freshman quarterback playing these games and a lot of youth around the roster. But if he doesn't beat Rutgers, I think he's going to be at a point of no return because I don't know if this is a game where he's coaching for his job per se, but if you lose this game and then you don't make a bowl game, I find it very hard that he'll be able to have a pitch to convince the Maryland brass to come back.
Right. Yeah. And that's the challenge when things start going in this direction. It becomes increasingly difficult for a coach to put the train back on the tracks, so to speak, right? When things start heading in the wrong direction, when you start losing, when the fans start getting angry, it's just like, it starts to feed itself after a while. And I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, I don't know if this loss in itself would get Locksley fired, but I mean, it's the kind of thing that's going to be hard for it to come back. They want to see progress down there, and losing to a Rutgers team that is struggling as well. It's going to be difficult. And I think one of the biggest points of this game is for as long as they play each other, like Rutgers can't have a good season without beating Maryland right now. Maryland can't have a good season without beating Rutgers. It's basically impossible, right? Given all the other teams they're going to have to play, like Oregons and the Washingtons and the Ohio States and the Penn States, you're going to have to beat each other. And that's part of what makes this game so significant, especially when it comes later in the season, when you're both, at the point now where it could go that you get eliminated from bowl contention. You could finish the season on a long losing streak like Maryland's in danger of doing. It just raises the stakes.
It's kind of like a crabs in a bucket deal where they're both trying to elevate, but they're kind of pulling each other down. It'd be one thing if one of these teams wins every year or most years, then they'd go one ahead of the other. But these teams are just trading wins on each other's turf. Rutgers has 1 win at home against Maryland and I think 4 on the road, and I think it's vice versa, obviously. I think the thing for Loxley to get the train back on the tracks when you're in this position is you have to win a game that you shouldn't, right? Like he's going to have to beat. He has a game against Michigan and I think Illinois is another game.
Yep.
In Illinois. You got to win one of those games to feel like you get the train back. That's the kind of win that has people feeling better about the program. The flip side of this, and this is much like the James Franklin conundrum, you can't lose games where you were in theory better than the opponent. And that Rutgers is a game that Maryland views as like, we are better than Rutgers. We should win this game, which is why it's such a dangerous game for him, I think, because you're already losing goodwill by not winning these games that you feel like you need to have the next step. When you lose a game to Rutgers, it probably feels like a step back in College Park. We can argue whether it is or not. I don't know if Rutgers is in a different position. I don't think Rutgers, if they lose to Maryland, it's necessarily the same thing. But I think if they do, it'll be a big blow. 1, because you're going to miss a bowl game. And 2, you feel like you're at a point where you should be better than a bad Maryland team.
All right. Although I will say, we call them a bad Maryland team. Looking at the results, strictly the results, it was a 4-point loss to Washington, a 3-point loss to Nebraska, a 3-point loss at UCLA. Again, Indiana, is destroying everybody. They beat Illinois by 50. So Indiana destroyed Maryland. If you throw that one out, they were being competitive in every game. I'll give them that. The numbers from the Indiana game, though, are not good. I mean, Indiana outrushed them, 367 to 37. You're starting to see some stuff, bad signs, like a freshman quarterback, Malik Washington, 3 turnovers, making mistakes now that led to 21 points for Indiana, 16 of 13 overall, 16 of 32 overall, 242 yards. So, there is some evidence there that this team is trending in the wrong direction. Certainly, at the home game, fans chanting, the student section chanting, "Mike Loxley must go." I mean, that's rough when your own student section is doing that. Can you imagine if that happened at Rutgers? There's a lot of heat on it, but at least he can say the team has been competitive until last week.
So they said fire Loxley, the student section, and they asked him about it on Tuesday. And he said, if I was in the stands and I had a couple beers in me, I would probably be chanting the same thing because we sucked. And again, I say this a lot on this podcast, but I appreciate the candor of a guy saying that because he's right? It's you see it from the perspective of the fans. You understand it. I had a point. So Indiana, insanely enough, is at a point where I take whatever they do and I view it as the same lens as an Ohio State or an Oregon, where it's just like, you can't hold this against the team. They're just so much better than you. Indiana used to be on the other side of this, where it's like, all right, you may have had a great game against Indiana, but it's Indiana. Let's not get too crazy here. Now it's like, all right, Indiana beat the doors off you. That's just what they do. No sweat.
It is pretty amazing. It is really amazing that then that happened in 2 years. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, last year they were still beating the crap out of teams, but you thought maybe this is an anomaly or whatever. Like Indiana's a national title contending team. They are elite, right? So amazing. But the point with the other games, like they only lost to Nebraska by 4, you said. They
3.
blew that game.
Yeah.
They blew that game. They should have won that game. They completely choked at the end of that game. They only lost by 3 to UCLA. I know UCLA beat Penn State, and that's kind of felt like they've turned their season around. They're still not that great, right? UCLA is not exactly a good team. So while they haven't been blown out and lost these games a lot, they've lost games to beatable teams that you feel like you should be able to beat in year 7. Again, it's one thing if you are in close games, but if you lose all these close games, it kind of doesn't really matter.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. Washington, though, I mean, they had a lead in Washington and blew it.
They blew that game too.
They blew that game too.
They blew that game badly.
Blew badly. Yeah. So it's, I guess you can look at it. It's very true. Yeah. And this is where if I'm a Rutgers fan, I am cautiously optimistic about this one, despite of what you saw in the Illinois game and what we've, talked about on this podcast ad nauseum, is that at least, this Maryland's a team that makes a lot of mistakes. And for all of Rutgers' defensive problems, you still haven't had a situation where Ethan Kalikmanis is making those same mistakes, right? He's overthrowing receivers, but he's not turning the ball over like Malik Washington has. And I think in a game like this, which could be kind of a crazy, high scoring thing, and we say that every week, and every week it turns out not to be true, but a game where there could be a lot of points where it could come down to a few mistakes by one team or the other. This is the first time in a while that, Rutgers will play in a game where the other offense is likely to make more mistakes.
Yes, but this is maybe one of the outside of the Ohio State, Oregon level where Ethan Kalikmanis might be making mistakes, because Maryland has 15 interceptions in 8 games. That is almost 2 per game. And it's not just one guy getting all these picks. There's a lot of guys that are doing it. So, and they asked him about it. And so he's aware of, I should say, he was asked about it during media availability this week. He's aware of the danger. And no matter who Rutgers is playing, they will never win a game if that happens, right? They've been in these games because the offense has not, maybe some games they haven't performed well, but they have never really shot themselves in the foot. That is the one thing Rutgers cannot afford to do offensively. They haven't done it so far. That's going to be the big question. And then defensively, I don't care who they're playing. It's just going to be a matter of containing and not giving up a touchdown every drive, right? They're going to be bad. Be bad normal. Be bad, but control it enough that you give yourself a chance that the offense doesn't have to score on every drive.
Right. What you mentioned talking to them today, what's your sense from being around the program the last couple of days? I mean, is this a team that senses the opportunity? Is this a team that, it knows it's going in the wrong direction? What do you think?
Well, for good or for bad, these guys say pretty much the same thing every week, right? So you can never really tell if they're high, if they're low, if they are even keel, right? They pretty good poker faces. Greg Schiano's not going to do what Bill O'Brien did yesterday and just destroy a reporter for asking, "Hey man, you're 1-8. What the hell?" So I guess the mood is the same as always, right? Outside of the week after Oregon, where I think it's hard not to be down after that one. I kind of get the sense of, but I think if you asked them privately and got a bit of truth serum, I think they understand the magnitude of this game, just as far as like making a bowl game and ending this. Because the last time they played at home was the Oregon game. They've been 2 weeks in a row away from home. You'd like to kind of get the stink off that and have the mood uplift, give the fans something good to feel about, and kind of enter the last 2 game stretch with something tangible to grab onto.
Right. The best thing about that Bill O'Brien rant was like he starts by chiding the guy. You come around here once every couple of months. Can you imagine, like for us, it's like, you're here every day asking the same asinine questions. That would be absolutely, they would not, like, thank God you're only here once every couple of months.
Don't you guys have something better to do?
Anything else? Go away. That's what we limited your access. Say the same things anyway. You know what we're going to say. Just go away. Be great. That'd be the press conference. That was it. It's funny. That was kind of like, it was not quite the halt, because halt was funny. It was like the opposite. If things had gotten to the point where it's no longer, where it's antagonistic and not like we're not all laughing about it 3 minutes later, that's kind of what that was. I did see that clip, and if you haven't seen it, go watch Bill O'Brien loses at a very valid question about being 1-8. Not great.
A lot of people liked that after he did he went crazy against this guy who asked a negative question. He just moves on to the next guy, but he's still like really fired up. So he's like, "What's up, Trevor?" Like he's going to tackle the guy.
What you got, Trevor? That's right.
Who's the Trevor of our press corps? It would be interesting. I would be the guy that asked the question. Obviously, I'd be Mike. I wonder who the Trevor would be.
It'd be Alec. Like such a nice guy. Like, you're not going to say, "What's up, Alec?"
What's up, Alec?
Yeah.
What you got for me?
It'd be great if the guy said, "Well, you're 1-8. I mean, what the fan?" It'd be great if you just followed up. That would be like the perfect press conference strategy. If it ever happens here, I'm putting all the media on that. The proper thing is to ask the question again. Well, you didn't answer it when he asked it. That'd be great. Trevor would be like,
No.
"No, Trevor, you betrayed me."
No offense, Bill. You are 1-8. Hey, he's kind of right.
Hey, he's got a point. You're 1-8. Yeah, you too. We're building something here. Yeah, it's great. God, I love that stuff. The only
He's
time,
like,
the best part about the only time I would have had no idea Boston College was 1-8 until it happened. Like, I don't know. If I follow college football, I don't follow it like the bad teams though, really that closely. They didn't play Rutgers. I would have no idea they're that bad until that little clip. Good job, Bill O'Brien, letting the world know what's going on up there.
My favorite part, he's like, you always come around here and just ask negative stuff. What positive thing could you possibly ask about a team being 1-8? Like, wouldn't it be offensive? Like, you'd be treated like a baby if they're like, well,
Right.
Bill, you're 1-8, but your boys sure try hard, don't they? You know, I feel like infantilized.
What about the tight ends? They're really looking good. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. All right. The keys to this game, we'll pick them in a minute with Carlin. I think this, for me, let's see Rutgers finally win a game in the trenches. Like, this is what I want to see. I get it. Indiana's a different story than any team in the league. Ran for 367 yards. I think Rutgers has got to get back to the point where this game's in Antoine Raymond's hands, where they're able to move the ball on the ground, where they're able to do some things that they did not do at all against Illinois, where it's not so much pressure on the dropbacks and just putting everything on, a couple of guys in the passing game. That would be me. I want to see some balance on offense. And of course, I mean, we talk about this every week, and you mentioned it just a minute ago, but you just can't. The defense cannot do this again. It can't be another week where someone's going around, a simple off tackle run and getting 60 yards. They've got to get to the point where like they're blocking and tackling against a bad team, some fundamental football and defense. Those are the two things for me that are keys to the game. What do you got?
Yeah, same thing. Try to rattle the true freshman quarterback. I mean, he's played better defenses, obviously, but he's still 8 games into his college career. Make him work for it. Make him rattle him a little bit. I mean, in an ideal world, you're sacking him. They've had 2 sacks in the past 4 games, so I might be asking for too much there, but get in the backfield, create some pressure, create some havoc. And exactly to your point, last week they didn't give up too many huge plays, like 50 or 60-yard plays. They gave up a ton of chunks of 15, 20, 25, like those nickel and diming down the field. You need to get what you did at Purdue. 3 and outs, 4 and outs, kill drives early. Don't let Maryland get momentum offensively. They're going to give up scores. They are. Like I will never expect this team to hold a team to less than 20 points, but limit it as much as possible. And when you do have momentum, when you do get them in 3rd and long, when you do have a chance to kill a drive, kill it. That to me is the big play, the big key. And then offensively, just do what you have to do. Don't turn the ball over. Feed KJ Duffy and Strong, and I think you're exactly right. Get the run game going because it didn't get going in Illinois, and obviously that was a huge reason they couldn't get anything going.
Right. All right. We'll see if Chris Carlin agrees with us. Take a little break. Come back right now with the voice of Rutgers athletics. All right, we are back with Chris Carlin. Chris Carlin, thanks for joining us. And I'm going to tell you, we started the show today wondering, so I'm going to ask you right now, what is the most annoying place that someone yelled pandemonium at you? Is there some where you like at the beach or something, like pandemonium in Asbury or something?
Happened in a men's room once. It was not ideal. But
pandemonium.
It never. I wouldn't say it's not ever annoying because I'm fortunate that I was a part of that, but the most awkward place would be a men's room. Yeah. And I've seen this happen before with other people too, but yet standing at the urinal, having somebody like 3 down from you say that, like, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Lock back in here.
Of all the places where I don't want pandemonium, I think it's the men's room.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point. That is like the last place you want pandemonium. I have experienced that. We certainly don't need to get into it, but it's the last place you want it to happen. Wow, I did not have this as to how this was going to start today.
We're off the rails already. Not bad.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. It's a pretty good start. Yep.
That's the magic I can bring to you.
It's the magic of the Rutgers Rant. I guess bouncing off that, Everyone knows you for Pandemonium Piscataway. It's your most famous call. It's the most famous call probably in Rutgers athletics history. What is your second favorite call? Or I guess, is Pandemonium Piscataway your favorite call? And if it is, what is your second favorite call that you look back on fondly?
It's funny, Brian. Like, I look back on that now, and it's awesome to have been a part of that. Like I said, I listened to it, and it really wasn't a great call.
Really?
Like, to what just to where I am in my career now. Like, I feel like, all right, you got caught up in the emotion, and that's what everybody wants. But ultimately, like, your biggest job there is to catch the emotion of the moment, but also what's happening, and do all of that. I guess that I just think, I don't know. I think now I would hope that it would have been a lot better and cleaner. If you go back and listen to the words that I actually say, it's like, the greatest win in Rutgers history and in the Greg Schiano era. Well, yeah. I mean, if it's the greatest win in Rutgers history, that's bigger than that era. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm getting really in the weeds on it now. I think my second favorite probably would have been Tim Brown at UConn in 2009. That was just an unbelievable play. I know how emotional it was for Tim. If you remember that week, that was the week that UConn had lost their player. I believe it was Jasper Howard, I believe his name was, and he had been killed in a shooting the week before, and he was actually a childhood friend of Tim Brown's, and I knew how emotional it was for him. But that's probably one that's right up there. When they beat USF in 2007, when they were second in the country, that's up there too. But I don't think of too many of them like that. I just kind of more think of it as like, it's just really fun to get to do it every week. And when you're fortunate enough to get moments like that, you really, more than anything, you just really want to get it right.
It's amazing. And I hadn't done this. And if I got the math wrong, forgive me, but this is your 22nd year, I think, doing this or something.
Calling the games.
Calling the games. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, could you have imagined that? And I guess you're like well on your way to becoming one of those guys that I'm sure growing up you saw in press boxes who are associated with a team, like Howie Rose with the Mets, like guys who have been around the team for their entire, like people grow up listening to you. There are Rutgers graduates who are finishing college who weren't alive when you started doing this, just to make you feel a little bit better about this here.
Yeah, and that's not helping. Yeah. No, it is odd. It is odd now to hear people say, I grew up listening to you. That's just it. Really, more than anything, it just makes you feel old. But I never would have expected it. It's 25th year overall, because I did sideline for the first 3 years when it was Tom McCarthy and Tim Pernetti and me. And then Tom left and they gave me the job. It's been unbelievable. It's so much fun to do it every week and to be a part of it. And what's so odd to me, at least for me personally, like I grew up in this state, but when I was in high school, I never really thought about Rutgers. I never really considered Rutgers as a place to go. And just kind of getting to be a part of it as a representative of the state of New Jersey, as the university is the coolest part for me. Because, I mean, even I'm youngest of 6, and even in my family, my oldest brothers grew up in Massachusetts, and even they make fun of New Jersey. And I grew up completely here, and it aggravates me when people make fun of New Jersey. And I like the fact that I've been able to be associated with that for as long as I have. It's been pretty cool.
There are 2 people that have been associated with you throughout this 22 years or 25 years, Greg Schiano and Anthony Fusilli, 2 great paisans. And I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit. I'm wondering if you have a fun story about either of them, or if they intersect both of them.
I mean, on Fuchs, there are just too many. I mean, I don't know how to describe Fuchs. I mean, I can give you one from a few weeks ago where he was just It's kind of maddening at times. He can drive me absolutely insane, but he's also just so funny and not meaning to be. Where he was asking me if I had heard about something, and it was just like it's so innocuous. And he said, "Oh, about," and he starts talking about it, and he says, about John in particular. He's like, "You didn't hear about it?" It's like, I'm not doing it justice. He said, "Well, of course, with what's going on with John." And I said, "What's going on with John?" He said, "You didn't hear?" And I said, "No." "You don't know?" I said, "No, I don't know." "Nobody told you?" "Nobody told me." "Just tell me." For the third time. And he couldn't even help it. But just traveling with Fuchs is it's just, he's such a piece of work. I think with Greg, there have been he hired me, his first year was when Tom and Tim and myself got hired. And I just am thinking about this guy who at the time is 34, that I'm now 20 years older than that guy that hired me. And I was only 6 years younger than when he did. I'll never forget sitting at his desk in his office that was still in the process of being built. And he's just running in between things and eating this grilled chicken for lunch and talking to me, just trying to get through lunch and talk to this guy with the sideline. What's next? Billboards down in Florida. What's going on next? Thinking about all those things and just moving all the time. But I just, he's just been great over the years for me. He really has. Very supportive. His parents were at my wedding, for Pete's sake. His father was just hysterical. He was such a good guy. I probably have more great stories about his father than I do with Greg, because Greg is always working. It just never ends. But his father and I would hang out a lot in those early days when he'd come on those road trips, and he was such a, he just was living and dying with every play. It was so great.
That's great. I guess I imagine it's funny because you do have that relationship. You're the voice of the team. It has to be different than when you're broadcasting a random NFL game where you want to see the team do well. It makes your job easier. You're part of this, Greg. What for you professionally, what is the difference, I guess, between being the voice of a team and being a guy broadcasting a game?
I do the game differently. There's an emotion behind doing it with Rutgers than there is doing. I'm not going to sit here and tell you on Sunday doing an NFL game, I'm completely unbiased in the whole thing. Because that, it's ESPN radio, it's a national audience. It's, people are just listening to the game. Let's be honest. The people who are listening to us on Rutgers are Rutgers fans, and they want to know what's going on. And I'm not going to sit here and, when things are not going well, you will know. But I'm not going to sit here and second lead, third and 5, but you will know in the tone of how we are doing the game if things are not going great or if things are going really well. And I'm going to get more excited for Rutgers plays because that's what a fan wants. At least when I think of my home, the teams that I grew up rooting for, I grew up as a huge Met fan. And you're talking about Howie. Howie's a huge Met fan. Yeah. And you can tell with Howie how much it means to him. I remember with Howie specifically, the Mets beating the Yankees and his pointed call at the end was, "Put that in your book," but there was so much more to it. So Steve, there's no doubt, when I'm doing a Rutgers game, there is a lot more into it. And then there's just the part of all the people that I've gotten to know over the 25 years, Greg, but so many people behind the scenes too, that are just living and dying and the kids and what they put into it too. I just want to, of course, I want to see them do well. I want to see it. I want to see them get rewarded for all of their hard work.
In the Rutgers universe, there's two new big faces, obviously, in Kelly and Bill Tate, and you interviewed them at the at one of Dave Burke's restaurants for their podcast. One, what is your early impressions of both of them? And two, how was the food? Because I've had food at a Dave Burke restaurant before, and it was magnificent.
Yes, it was outstanding. The food. Let's start with the food. Okay. No, it was an awesome steak, and I had like a scarlet steak. Now I'm allergic to seafood, so it was like a surf and turf combination with a lobster tail in that. So I couldn't with that, but the steak was it was fantastic. I'm a big advocate of it. Frankly, getting to know them both a little bit, and I would say the one thing that I got a chance to see up close was the alignment between the two of them and the relationship there. And I'll just take you a little bit behind it. In between, we sat and the three of us ate together, and I got to kind of witness their interaction. And it's two people who clearly are on the same page about where this is going and about how important it is to them to make this work on a whole nother level. I think for President Tate, if you watch that interview, like there was no script of here's what we're going to go through and here's what your answers are going to be or things like that. He just turned to me at one point and said, let me ask you something. Do you know anybody who likes to lose? And like, he was really getting into it. And so, I love the energy, but I really am getting to know the two of them and just how kind of locked in they are to try to make this a success. And it's really no screwing around. Like, one of the first things that Kelly was talking about was complaints from fans about the traffic pattern after games. And like, they had people right there working on that right away. It's a little thing, but it's a big thing to people that you're getting right in. And then of course there's all of the NIL stuff that they're embracing and really prioritizing right now.
My favorite thing about that interview is like, I really do believe Kelly Zinn knows this stuff, the NIL stuff. Like, she's like a computer with all of this information. But then President Tate at one point will turn to you and goes, "You like cranberries?"
Yeah, there's like, he's a real dude.
Yeah.
And I thought that was funny. And I mean, truth be told, like, I wasn't expecting to get asked that. And yeah, I like cranberries. Like, yeah.
Are
they a top Thanksgiving food? Behind stuffing. Yes, but I like cranberries. But like, I could only think of to answer, yeah, I like cranberries, of course.
As we've learned, William Tate will say what's on his mind. I don't know if you watch The Wire, but he's a little cryptic sometimes, but he won't hesitate to say anything. While we're on the subject of food still, and by the way, I think raspberry and stuffing hand in hand, 1A, 1B on the Thanksgiving table.
That close. Do you like the raspberry to come right out of the can so that you have to slice it and it is in the shape of the can, or cranberry, I should say? That's the way we had it in my house.
Yeah, of course. Is there any other way? It comes other ways? I didn't know that.
Apparently.
I thought it was grown in a can. Huh.
The shape is less important to me than the taste, but yes, I do like it out of the can. I guess the food thing, Carlin's corner table, right? Your series on TikTok. It's I always enjoy watching those videos when they come up on my feed. How did that get started, and how's it doing? Or do we have an NIL deal in the horizon?
It's certainly up for purchase for sponsorship, no question. It's going well. It's kind of it's fun. I tick some people off because I'm being honest with it. I don't think the Krug's Tavern people are having me back anytime soon.
Did you kill Krug's? I missed that one. Wow.
I didn't kill him. I did. It was not like, and let's be clear. I blame you guys because NJ.com was the one that named it like the best burger in New Jersey for a certain stretch. Okay. This was the first time I had it. Maybe they were on an off day. I would just say it wasn't great. I thought it was good, but I didn't sit there and walk out of there and be like, oh my God, this is
right.
Yeah. I've had better ones along the way. Listen, I have always said in my career that if you're my boss and you let me be an idiot, we're going to be fine. Like that, and I'm being serious when I say that, because if you're just gonna let me fly and kind of just let me do whatever, I'm not gonna get you in trouble, and we're gonna have fun, and I'm gonna screw around, and that's just kind of another outlet. It started when I came back to ESPN New York in January, and they said, "Hey, what do you think about doing something outside this for social?" I'm like, "Sure, why not? Let's try it." And there have been a couple of things that have really taken off pretty well. But I'm not smart enough to figure out algorithms and all that stuff. But there have been some unbelievable, like I don't know that I ever had a French dip sandwich before we got that Salt Hank's place in the city. Salt Hank, a huge influencer on YouTube. This thing is unbelievable. Wow. I mean, I've never had anything that good in my entire life. And so last week I was in Chicago. We did Italian beef. That'll be coming out this week. Bagels, you name it. We're doing it. I'm having fun. What the hell,
Absolutely. Sure.
And it's just always funny to see people's faces, because here I am, this 50-plus-year-old man walking in with a selfie stick. Do you mind if I shoot some video? Okay, thank you. And I just feel like such a dork, but at the same time, like, what the hell? I am what I am. So
give us one New Jersey place that we should try, and then one Big Ten road place. Putting you on the spot.
Okay.
Here.
The Big Ten road place. So I was so bummed out to find out. I was at Illinois. I'll just make this quick. There was a place that David Deal had turned me on to about 20 years ago when he was playing for the Giants. I was doing their pre and post game at Illinois. He played there. There was a steakhouse called Alexander's Steakhouse, and it was a place where you actually go in and cook your own steak. They had a giant grill in the middle of the restaurant. So first time we went was 2005, and it was me and Tim Pernetti. And for 2 days, we smelled like charcoal. It was unbelievable. We went back again a few years ago, I want to say during the Chris Ash era, when they won at Illinois, and it was very good, but I guess they didn't make it through the pandemic. So I was a little bummed out by that. I would say on the road, I mean, it's hard to go wrong with, there's a couple of places at Michigan that are solid. Man, I don't have a great one really yet for I'm trying to remember the name of the place. There's a couple of places in Indiana. I'm not doing this very well right now, but I haven't graded so many Big Ten places yet. But I would say on the flip side, having never been to it, even though it's in New Brunswick, Destination Dogs, excellent if people have not been. And I would think that most people who watched this have been really, really good. And I'm a big hot dog guy. My biggest knock on it would be split top buns. Like, you got a split top bun, you got to take a bite, and then like half the other bite is all bun. Like, that doesn't, I work logistics too. So that's where I run into a bit of a problem. But anyway, I would say Destination Dogs has been one that I was really super high on. Salt Hank's, I don't know, like, I'm not the guy usually that wants to wait online for a half an hour for something.
Yeah.
But holy cow, that was an unbelievable sandwich. That was even better like the next day. Oh, so good.
I lived close to Destination Dogs for a few years, and I'd go there once a month at least, just because the variety is as good as every hot dog is good, and there's so much variety. I agree with you. A hot dog logistically is really hard because you can't get all the flavors in one bite. So sometimes you're getting the toppings, sometimes you're getting the dog. I can't just take gigantic bites every time, or else I might choke on my food. So
exactly.
I don't know if there's a solution. And then the other thing, the steakhouse reminds me of, have you had Korean barbecue? It's essentially cooking your own food at a smaller scale.
Yes, I have. I would say it's similar, except you are literally going to the refrigerator, picking out the steak, and throwing it onto this massive grill in the middle of the room. I have had that only once. I need to go back and do it again. But like I said, this place closed, and oh God, I was so bummed out about it.
Generally
But
speaking, I feel like I want the restaurant to handle the cooking portion of
yeah, I know a lot of people feel that way, and I get it. This was just a different experience. And listen, I'm lazy. Let's be clear about that. Like, I so badly want to be good on the grill, and I'm not. And that's one of the biggest disappointments in my life. But in that situation, they have people there with you, and it was hard to screw it up. And Tim's very good on the grill, and he was with me there too. So
Right.
had that big brother.
That's going to be the
hand on my
headline.
shoulder.
The biggest disappointment of Chris Carlin's life. It's good.
Up
Like
there.
when we tease to this.
Up there.
What could it be?
I mean, we could do an hour on that, on not only my disappointments, but how I have disappointed other people.
What was the Greg Schiano saying? Every man in America thinks he can do two things: coach a football team and grill a steak or something like that.
It's a great point. Yeah, I cannot do that. I forgot that he had said that, but that's true. Everybody thinks they're good on it, and I want to be so badly, and I'm just not. I screw up the temperatures, even with gas. Like I screw up the temperatures. I just can't get it right. We had our quick one. My wife and I hosted our first Thanksgiving. This was 2009. We had bought our first house, and in Scotch Plains, and we have my family over. Some of her family's there. My Aunt Billy, who was a giant pain in the ass, and I'm cooking some skirt steak in addition to the turkey that she's doing. I have it on the grill, and we ran out of propane like in the middle of it. And I was just like, oh God. And I'm leaving the house with this propane tank in my hand as she is arriving. I couldn't find the place. Look a little harder. Look for the giant R flag that I told you to look for. Oh my God.
Well, I hope her turkey was dry. Just
and I'm not exaggerating. Someone was in tears over the fact that she peered her head over into the kitchen and said, "What? No Brussels sprouts? No, Billy, no Brussels sprouts. You can go home to Bay Ridge. It's okay."
When did that get on the Thanksgiving menu? Come on.
Green bean
casserole, no Brussels sprouts.
But here's the thing. The view is always best from the cheap seats with her because she never cooked a damn thing.
Of course.
But world-class complainer. World-class.
There you go. All right. Hopefully she's not a listener. It'd be great. We'll get angry.
He's passed away a long time ago, and it's okay. Like even if she did, I had ripped her on the air many times when she was alive, so it's all good.
That's great.
She knew how I felt. There was no guessing at that.
Rest in peace, Billy. All right, Maryland plus 1.5. Scarlet Knights favored. This is the pick portion of the podcast. I don't think we've had a guest picker pick against the Scarlet Knights. Let's see. Chris Carlin, you going to be the first?
No, I will be picking Rutgers in this game. Listen, I still have a good amount of good feelings about what's going on. I know people are frustrated with with where they are at the moment. I still think there's a lot left in these last few games. And I'm also a big believer in eighth. And I think that the amount of just consistency that he has been able to bring to the position that they haven't had in a long time for an extended period really, really helps. So I feel good about this game. When do I not? I'm not going to lie. I always feel that they have got a good chance to win, but I do feel like they've got a good chance to win in this game for sure. And listen, they were able to beat them last year. I don't know if it's really been streaky between the two, but it's never been a locked in one team's going to dominate another no matter what. That's never how this kind of rivalry has gone.
Score?
Oh, I mean, all right. I'll say Rutgers by 10. How about that?
Okay.
I don't have a great score in mind, but right. I'll say Rutgers by 10. Yeah.
That's funny. That's exactly what my pick was. 30. I'm going Rutgers 38, Maryland 28 for the same reason. I think Ethan will outplay the freshman quarterback. I don't think they'll make as many mistakes as Maryland will. And I do believe that Greg Schiano has lived up to his end of the bargain when teams are inferior or equal for the most part. This is one of those examples where I think Rutgers is the more talented team. So
I mean, I think they'll be in. I'd be surprised if they didn't win this game, frankly. But I'm biased. I'm not going to lie.
I think there are a lot of reasons to agree with you that they're going to win this game. I think that they're more mature, right? Maryland's built almost entirely of underclassmen, and when you play a lot of young kids, you're going to get some mistakes. I do worry about how good their secondary is at forcing turnovers. Ethan has been really good at not shooting himself in the foot, and I think he'll be able to avoid it in this game. I think Rutgers gets the run game going, and I think the defense will be able to rattle Malik Washington a little bit. I think it's going to be a tight one. I think there will be some tension in the stands because I think people really want to get a Big Ten win at home this year. I think ultimately Rutgers wins this game in a tight one, let's say 31-28. And I do think that the Rutgers-Maryland thing, we talk about the rivalry thing every year. This series has been interesting in that the road team always seems to win. Rutgers has won one game at home against Maryland, which was 2017, the Chris Ash era. There's been some weird things like in 21 or 22, Greg Schiano was as down as I've ever seen him after losing a game there. Flash forward to last year, Kyle Monungai, matches Ray Rice in, I think it was the single season rushing record, whatever. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
That was like a really magic moment. They clinch a bowl game there. I think there's been some really interesting games there. I don't know at what point it becomes a rivalry, but I think it's pretty close that people are going to feel that way.
It's funny that those are usually the kind of things that build that rivalry. Yet you don't feel like there's a real hatred between the two. You don't feel that at all. So it is interesting from that standpoint. But I that was pretty cool last year seeing Ray there. And Ray, I guess Ray lives down in the Baltimore area, but he was at the game and seeing it for Kyle. And I feel great for Kyle after last week too. I saw him a few weeks ago. I called the Bears-Raiders game in Vegas, and we were chatting afterward, and you can just tell how much he's enjoying the whole opportunity that he gets. And, that was awesome to see last week for sure. He's one of my favorite guys to have come through because he's so easy to root for. You guys know, what a quality individual he is. So
okay, that brings you one last question. Take Eric LeGrand out of the equation because he's all of our favorite Rutgers player. Who is the one player that sticks with you? A guy that you really enjoy covering, maintain a friendship with, someone along the lines who sticks out.
There are a lot of them. Sebastian Joseph is certainly up there. Mike is certainly up there. I really like Tim Brown a lot. Cassine Green was always one of the just best dudes as a leader and as a player. I really liked him a lot, and I love getting the chance to see him. I can't say that there's one. There have been a lot of them coming through that are just easy to root for. It's funny, just out of nowhere, that same day that I saw Kyle in the Bears locker room, this guy just starts walking toward me, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And it's Jonah Jackson. And like, I hadn't seen Jonah in 5 or 6 years easily. And I'm like, there's no way he's going to remember me. I haven't seen him since he transferred. Right. And he's like, yeah, I remember that show we did at Quaker Steak and Lube.
That's awesome.
He's a good dude too. But just to get to maintain some friendships and relationships, even if I get to see those guys, it's pretty cool. It's definitely cool to see them in a new element, but also the guys that didn't play in the league or now are on to their next lives. McCourties are right there. I don't know how I can put them out. I mean, Jason last week in India, I'm going on and on here, but Jason last week in Indianapolis, my niece is a junior at IU. And I was doing the Colts game, and Jason had her in the booth for, watching what's going on, and then took her down, and, they had her down in the CBS truck, and it was an amazing experience for her. And, that's what those guys have always been about. Like, that's the one thing I will always say is like the quality people that have come through this program, it's pretty impressive. It really is.
Awesome. All right. Well, you're one of them, sir. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We'll be back tonight to talk about the basketball game, and on YouTube, find us there. We're back after this game to talk about it next week. Until then, hey, thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant, sponsored by the Heldrich Hotel. Head to nj.com/Rutgers for more Scarlet Knight content.